Anyway, folks, we've just gone past the top of the hour, so welcome on board, everybody. Fantastic way to start the morning, talking about conspiracy theories and all those interesting things. So I think I'm going to hand over quickly to Lee just to kick us off, but then we're going to hear all about Cecile's conspiracy theory and then her life. So we'll take it from there. So yeah, welcome, and Lee, over to you.
Well, welcome and morning, everyone. What a great way to start a Saturday morning. We're following a theme, and it's a theme around understanding that each one of us is unique, and we have a unique story, unique personalities, unique ways of looking at the world. When we bring each of these unique stories together, every single one of us has an opportunity to be inspired by somebody else's story, as well as to learn, because there are different ways that people do things. And our eyes can be opened to realize, oh, if I thought about it this way, or if I saw it in that way, we have the opportunity to re-look at how we do things. I was just looking at Herman's comment. Yes, we are unique like the rest of us. And I think what is beautiful about being unique is that we also have a lot that's universal. And so we can identify with each other. So we're connecting these ideas of our uniqueness, our connection with others, and our mindset, and how we can encourage a positive, resilient mindset in a context that is actually out of our control. And so, Cecile, we come to you because we've been listening to various people's stories, from Oscar to Herman to Trevor, and you have an amazing and interesting story that you've just touched on little bits and pieces, and enough to make us curious and interested. So please, won't you share with us?
Okay, you guys must just be patient with me because the screen sharing I've got to do from my cell phone. Let's just go there. Okay, so I'm upside down. So right, sorry. Okay. Done. Okay. Right. So this little story started with people, with my mom and dad, and they were kind of, my mom was a nurse, my dad was working in the blood bank. They met each other the day that my dad met my mother. He said he went home to the lady where he was staying, and he said to the lady, I met the lady that I'm going to marry today. About a month later they got engaged, and about 6 months later they got married. And when my mom was one of 8 children, my dad one of 9 children, and when my mom was the youngest of the children and my dad was the oldest of his family. So when my dad went to my mom and said, my gran, and said, can I marry her? She said, of course not. We don't even know what kind of sicknesses is in his family, which is a strange thing, but if you think about it today, it's not so strange. So anyway, then they said, my gran said, my mom was 21. My gran said, you better not get pregnant. No, we're clever, we know, we will not get pregnant now soon. Well, within 6-8 weeks from then, she was pregnant with twins. So they were married, and they were poor. They didn't even have a car. They had nothing, but they had each other, and they had us, and we were busy little children. So then we moved to. My dad was a government employee. We moved to Klokkelaan, which is a small place in the Free State, and from the young, there's the twins, and from the young age on, we were. My mom said when we were doing athletics, we would run, and we would be 20, 30 meters ahead of the other children in a 100-meter race. And well, I didn't believe it until I saw photographs. And then my dad, they were very hands-on parents, and they were interested in all our stuff. So in the backyard, my dad decided we're going to learn how to do high jump. So he took a bag and he stuffed some straw in it, and we did high jump. And he taught us how to do high jump in the back garden. Then at the age of 13, we moved back to Bloemfontein. My dad got promotion and we moved back to Bloemfontein, and I went to Jim Forshire, a school there. Well, there I always came second or third in athletics, but that photograph is from matric, and I won the races that day, and was the Victrixadorum. But at school, my juggling of stuff started already, because we would run from tennis in the afternoon to gymnastics to swimming to athletics, and the teachers would fight amongst one another because who was going to get a little piece of us. But we juggled everything, and I still believe that children should participate in all sport. And up to today, I've actually never had professional coaching from anyone. It's been teachers and my dad and friends and whatever. So I've never had professional coaching in anything. Maybe karate is the first thing. But when we used to run hurdles in high school, the people used to say, that's where my competitive streak also started. But healthy competition, because my sister was always there, and we were competing against each other, but not trying to obliterate each other. So people would always say, oh, these are the tweelingkies, and we're waiting for one another. There was no waiting. We were competing big time against one another. So then in high school, I played first in netball, and our team was the best team in South Africa. Then I decided, and I didn't do any of the heptathlon that I did later, because it wasn't done yet. And then Trevor, my little bit of X-rated stuff started here. I was a good girl, just interested in sport and having a lot of guy friends. But then I met Andre, and he was at university in matric when I just started matric. He was at university, and I don't know, one thing led to another. And in about July, while I was playing first in netball and whatever, I fell pregnant. But we didn't tell anyone. Not even my sister knew about that. So we would tan next to each other in the garden here by September, October, and she wouldn't even know. Then in about October, she said to me, if you don't tell, then she said, one day, I don't know what made her think, we had a fight. I don't know what made her think that I was pregnant. But anyway, she said, if you don't tell the parents by tomorrow, I will. So I told Andre, okay, you must come and see my parents. And he came and he saw my parents. And now we had to make the decision, what are we going to do? It was a month before my final matric exam. And we decided, I decided that I want to give the baby up for adoption. And my mom said, no ways, because I wanted to study social work. That was our plans were made. We were going to study social work. But then 2 weeks later, we had a chat to my mom, and she said, you love each other, why don't you get married? And then we'll help you raise the baby, whatever. So we decided to get married. I got married the weekend before my matric exam. So I wrote, when we told the headmaster, he said no, he wasn't going to allow me to come to school. So I had to write to write exams. You couldn't even see that I was pregnant, but anyway, he wasn't going to allow me to come to write my matric exam at school. So I wrote my matric exam at the Dominie's house every day. So after the matric exam, we went on holiday to my mom's brother in Nelspruit on the farm, and I was 7.5 months pregnant at that time. I started getting labor pains, and my mom being a midwife, I phoned her. She said what to do. She said go and see a midwife in town. So we raced in 20 kilometers into town, and when I got to the doctor, he said, well, you're fully dilated, the baby's about to be born. So there on the farm, our baby was born. It was on the 20th of February, and she was small, and it was in Nelspruit. The hospital wasn't great. So after 5 days, I got discharged. Lee, in those days, we stayed 5 days in hospital. And then but on the 30th of December, she died of a bleeding stress ulcer that they couldn't pick up. Okay, so there my plans were now changed again. So my dad said to me, why don't you go and study radiography? Because if you study radiography, at least you get a salary when you study that. So I said, okay. So I started studying radiography, but that afforded me the time. Well, I worked as a radiographer while you study. So I worked from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock every day. But my athletics career took off in that time because I started doing a heptathlon. So I don't know if any of you know what heptathlon is, but that's all these newspaper pictures. Heptathlon is it's athletics events, but you do 7 events. You do long jump, high jump, shot put, javelin, 100 hurdles, 200 and 800. And at that time, the things that I was really good at was hurdles and long jump. So I loved training for hurdles. I never trained for long jump, but although I never even trained for long jump, I was that time, I was number 2 in South Africa for long jump, and about number 4 or 5 for hurdles, and always number 2 in South Africa for heptathlon. So then, and I played netball for Free State University as well at that time. And during that time, they came out in South Africa with a thing called Charlie Super Sports Girl competition. So I took part in the Charlie Super Sports there in the middle. You can't recognize me, but I'm in the middle. Yeah, in the middle there. I took part in the Charlie Super Sports Girl competition. And it was in the Free State in winter. So yeah, I had to do lots of things that I didn't do before, like diving and stuff like that. So swimming, when we had to swim in the cold water in the Free State pool, there was no heated pools at that time. So so I did all of that, and I think I came 3rd or something, but it was great fun. Just doing multi-sports, even if you're not trained for it. So I did all of that, and from that time on, I was always number 2 or 3 or whatever in South Africa for heptathlon. Then we moved to Michaelhouse, and I wanted to carry on with my athletics career, and the only way to do that is to train by myself. No coach. You have to do 7 events, but no coach. But I did that anyway. I would train on the cricket field. Guys that play cricket will know what a sacrilege that is. But at Michaelhouse, that was the only place where that was dry in summer, because while the boys are in school, I was running on the cricket field, putting my hurdle out, doing my javelin, doing whatever I had to do on the cricket field. And then by that time I had 2 children. So Ruben was born there, and Cindy was 2. So every Saturday, my husband, Andre, was the cricket coach and the rugby coach. I forgot to say, but when we lived in Joburg, just before we moved to there, Andre taught at King David School, a Jewish school in Johannesburg. So those kids got to know a sports lady for the first time. So I would run train with these rugby teams and coach the forwards with David Kaplan at that time. And the boys would go home and say to their parents, they say, who's your rugby coach? And they would say, Mrs. Venter. They say, no, it's not possible. They say, yes, it's possible. You can come and check. But anyway, those boys became my best friends. On Saturdays, they would come to the school and we would run together, and I would kick the ball with them. And so they became my best friends. So then we moved to Michaelhouse, and by then Cindy was 2 and Ruben was born. So I still wanted to carry on with athletics, which I did. And then but it was hard because Andre couldn't go with me on a Saturday to Michaelhouse, from Michaelhouse to Durban, because the meetings were in Durban. And I would try and do all 7 events or 8 events on a Saturday while everyone was doing their 1 or 2. So I was still running my 100-meter and doing the hurdles and doing all the stuff. But now I was in a bus with 2 children. One was 2 years old and the other one was a baby. So I would take Ruben, and Cindy would look after him, or the boys on the stands would look after her, and she would look a little bit after him. And then before my running events, I would quickly, and I was breastfeeding as well. So before my running events, I would quickly take him to the change room, breastfeed him. so that I can do the running races. I've got TV footage where I'm participating in the Natal Championships, where I would be ready to do the shot put, and the next thing this little child would rock up here next to me on the shot put circle. Mookie, she wants my attention, and then I would take her and put it on the other side, on the outside of the track, past the place where they run, because it will take her a little while. Then I would run back to my shot put thing, quickly do the shot put, and then by that time she would be back with me. And then I would run between long jump and running the 100 hurdles and doing those events. But that was just, like I said yesterday, Trevor, those are the things that when you're doing them, you don't think about them, you just do them because you are kind of in it. So I ran for Natal for a lot of years, and then then I decided, no, this is getting a bit difficult. And luckily at my class there's a fantastic squash court, so I started playing squash because my husband was playing squash at that time. So I started playing squash, and within that same year, I got into the Natal master side. I was 30, I think I was about 32 by then. About 32 by then. So I started playing in the Natal Young Master side, and we won the SA Interprofs every year. Then things went from bad to worse with Andre and me, and we got divorced, and we moved back to Bloemfontein. And then 6 months later we got married again. So I had to kind of change my life again. Then we moved to Johannesburg, and in Johannesburg I was working as a radiographer, and we used to play squash. In those times I used to play SA Nationals with my daughter, doubles, that's my daughter. And then I also played SA National Squash doubles. I played other squash as well, but SA National doubles with my son, which is that one. And we won the mixed division, and we won. And Cindy and I won the ladies B division because she was too young to play in the senior division. Then from then, in that time, this was hilarious. In that time, we had friends who were, well, actually much later. We had friends that were in their 30s, and Sven, and then later on I got married to, 20 years ago, I got married to Sven, and he was also a great sportsman. So we had these friends that decided they wanted to have a couples weekend. They were, some of them were soccer coaches, and they were personal trainers, and the girl right in the middle there, she was the South African national squash champion. Farah Sterney is her name. It's Richard Sterney, the golfer's sister. So we arranged that to go and have this couples weekend at Zimbali. What a funny thing, because they thought, here we are as 50-year-olds, and they probably thought we can't do anything. So we had to do, in this couples thing, we had to do tennis and squash and running and golf, and we played 30 seconds one night. And as the weekend went on, they got more and more the Murin, because now these oldies were beating them at all these different, and we were competitive. Boy, we were competitive with 30 seconds. And so by the kind of the which girl? This girl right in the front, she was a comrades runner. And I hate this long distance running. although I had to run the 800. But Sven he ran for Liberty when he was working at Liberty. So he was a good runner. So our last event was supposed to be like an obstacle course over a 2 or 3 or 5, I don't even remember how many kilometers, but by then we were far ahead of all the others. So I was thinking, come hell or high water, if it causes my death, I will beat this girl, Tina, right here in the front. And that morning before this thing, they actually called it off because all the couples were fighting amongst each other because some of the women were useless in some of the things, and then their men were fighting with them, and Sven and I were just laughing. So the whole competition was called off. So they never presented. There was a big cup and everything. They never even presented this cup. So when I was looking at photos last night, I saw that, and that made me giggle, because that was one of the things that kind of happened in my sporting life. And then while I was playing squash, Sven and I became national squash. We took refereeing on seriously, and we started doing squash refereeing in South Africa. And in the next 8 years, we went all over the world. We were the top squash referees in South Africa, and we would go all over the world refereeing in 4 or 5 men's world team championships, and while still playing squash as well. So then, so we were doing the refereeing, and then I started doing karate as well at that same time, because there's another refereeing pick of all the other people from other countries at the refereeing, one of these refereeing men's world team championship things. Then at that time, I started doing karate. I started juggling my league karate in the morning. In the evening, it was all on Mondays. The karate was on Mondays and Wednesdays, and league was on Mondays. But I didn't want to let anyone down in the league, so I carried on doing karate and doing that. But the karate actually started like really I went to at the end of the squash season. I went to a karate. I saw a little notice in the newspaper that said unlimited self-defense classes for a month, and the squash league had already stopped. So I thought, okay, I can go and do squash. I can do self-defense classes. Well, when I got there, it was a karate dojo, and I thought, oh my word, no, I can't do this, because any other sport that I always used to do, I'm very unorthodox. I'm not orthodox in anything. I just wing it, do my own thing and just wing it. And in that time, so we were traveling a lot as well, because of the squash, doing the refereeing and playing squash ourselves. And then, but I loved skiing. So Sven and I tried every year. We made sure that we would go, and when we went to any of these refereeing things, we would fit in skiing. So we would go and ski and all the time. And just skiing alone, I don't know if any of you like skiing, but just snow skiing alone, I can write books about that, because that is just the most amazing sport. And you forget about everything. We always think, oh, I want to remember this and that and the other. And by the evening, you didn't even think of any of those things. It just took your mind away completely. In this time, I wasn't a radiographer anymore. One of my friends at squash said to me he needed a sales manager in his telecoms company. And I said, Peter, I know nothing about telecommunications. And he said to me, don't worry, Cecile, I will teach you. So he did. At that time, he had a big telecoms company, and he was the consultant for Discovery Health and Rand Merchant Bank and stuff like that. So he took me under his wing, and he taught me the complete new skills. So I worked there for about 6 years, and then I won a sales incentive to Brazil. And in Brazil, the finance company said to me, Cecile, why don't you start your own company? We'll assist you a little bit, but we'll assist you with your own company. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. And I started Chit Chat Telecommunications. So in between, we were still traveling, and that afforded me the chance to work from home. And every little cent that I had, we saved, and we go inside it. Everything that any time we toured, or we had to go for squash anywhere, we went to there as well. And then my sister became a Springbok race walker, and I would go with her and her friend to all the world championships all over the world. Then the karate, I went from doing a little bit of self-defense. I graded every 3 months, and my word, before I knew it, before I knew it, I had a black belt. I still didn't think of myself as a karate person. I still thought of myself as a squash player, an athlete, or whatever. But then I started realizing, I guess you are now a karate person as well. And so especially when I won the SA champs for veterans for kata and kumite, and I thought, oh my word! And this was also against much younger people in the dojo. Like in the squash, in the last years, I played with a whole lot of schoolgirls in my team. And that's really the reason why I stopped, because I couldn't handle their stupidity anymore. So that was doing that. So chit chat. We've never made big money, and I've never been someone to really care much about money. I care about experiences, and I've made enough money so that I can do the things that matter to me. Take my children with me on ski trips, and these are the Three Musketeers. We used to ski a lot. You can see I like skiing quite a lot. And the person that's my big inspiration probably in life is my sister. When we were 30, she got cancer. So at that time, we actually decided there's not going to be a bucket list for things to do. So that's when we started doing things, never thinking of that we are going to do them. But it's now 30 years later, because I've just turned 60, and she's been clean. Her cancer is away, but she was the attaché in Sweden in the last 4 years. So I visited her a few times, and Sven visited her last year as well. So like I said yesterday, we were talking about pivoting. So I had to pivot a few times in my life, and yes, it's no good hanging on to the things that even sometimes you hang on to things in your business life that you think, oh, that's good, because I really love doing radiography. It's one of the things that I love doing, and I said one day I will do it again, because as a radiographer I would go into the do x-rays of a patient. I would come back into the room and say to someone, I've just had this patient, and I would tell them the patient's life story, and they say, how do you know all of that? I say, they told me. And 10 minutes when I was doing a foot x-ray of them or whatever, they told me their life story. So I love people, and I love hearing their stories. But at that time, it was a job that wasn't paying much, because it was at the time when I didn't have the support of a husband. I was alone with the 2 children, and so I had to leave that and do something that brought food to the table. And so Trevor, you will laugh. I say I want to retire, but I actually want to retire to somewhere, to Jeffreys Bay, where we have a house. If I can just convince my husband to do his job from there, I can do what I'm doing right now, especially in this time. I can do from anywhere. I don't have to be in Johannesburg. And I've now seen in the last 3 weeks, that this can be done. The jobs that we do, most of that can be done from anywhere else. And if I have to do something else to sustain us, I will do that. So it's there's a lot of stuff in between that I didn't talk about, because I know this goes out into into the YouTube or Facebook or whatever. And that's in this closed forum. I don't mind sharing my story, but I don't know if the rest of the world wants to hear my X-rated stories, Trevor. So I see it's long overdue. I thought I'm going to talk for 15 minutes, but now that's it. So my main thing is to just, I'm not in business really to make big money. I just want to do what's necessary and love to do the things that I do. No one's going to go into the hearse with a whole lot of money. So I want to use the money that I have to do the things that I love doing. That's me.
Cecile, fantastic. Thank you very much. Wonderful stories, wonderful memories. Yeah, I see you getting a round of applause there. So absolutely, yeah, amazing life stories that you've got there. That's really great. And I love, you know, what Trevor's actually said there. You know, you're a doer. You just do stuff, and I think that is absolutely the essence to shortcutting your way to success, as Trevor says there, which exactly what was coming to my mind. I mean, that word "do" just comes up in your vocabulary almost every other sentence, which is absolutely fantastic. So really appreciate that. I'm going to whip around the group very quickly just to let people have a comment, and then we'll close off for the morning. But thanks again. So Tselo, let's start with you.
Good morning, everybody. No, wonderful story, Cecile. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful, beautiful story. Very inspiring.
Thanks, Ella.
Great, thanks, Ella. Steve.
Yeah, same from my side. I really enjoyed that. Thanks, Cecile. Very varied. I like your life experience. Sure.
Thanks, Steve. Ian?
Yeah, Wonder Woman, absolutely amazing and fascinating to see what you've experienced, and absolute admiration. It's absolutely amazing.
Thanks, Ian. Herman?
Cecile, thank you very much for sharing in such detail. And there's one thing I have in common with you. I treasure memories tremendously.
Thanks, Herman. Trevor?
Life is a journey, and you've got to throw yourself in wholehearted, and that's what I pick up. This woman is me in a canoe, for goodness sake. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. Just went down the river, and then you paddle like hell. And if you had to see me on the ski slopes, you'd run for your life. But I don't stop from the top to the bottom on the black slopes. I just love that story, Cecile.
Thanks, Trevor. Lee, back to you to wrap up, and then I think we're done for this morning.
Cecile, thank you. Thank you for the work that you put in just to capture a whole lifetime in half an hour with the pictures and the story, and I thank you for being vulnerable as well and sharing some of the not so easy parts and realizing that you've actually gone through a tough life, but that's the perfect picture. That's the perfect picture to end with. I love it. Yeah, I say no more. It says it all. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're going to have to definitely put an X rating on this recording, I think.
Just make sure Trevor doesn't grab that as the screenshot for YouTube.
Super wonderful, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic Saturday, and look forward to chatting to everyone tomorrow morning again. So, good one. Cheers. See you tomorrow.